Caitlin Clark making news yet again. She is a first-team All-WNBA selection as a rookie. Probably not coming as a surprise to anyone who has followed this, but Caitlin Clark receiving 52 first-team votes out of 67 cast. She was named on 66 of 67 ballots. I guess that means there's some out there that didn't even put her on the second team. I can assume that that is probably the same salty hater that thought that Angel Reese was the rookie of the year. Come out from under your rock and name yourself WNBA awards voter. We want to know who you are. But Caitlin Clark, the first rookie to make first team all WNBA since Candace Parker in 2008. And I think we all remember that, right? No, you don't remember it because you didn't give a shit about the WNBA before Caitlin Clark came into the league. You're not fooling me. She's only the 5th rookie ever to achieve this honor in these, 30 years or so of the WNBA. So a fitting end to the season. Caitlin Clark takes the Indiana Fever to the playoffs. She drags them back to relevancy in the WNBA. She is the rookie of the year near unanimously, but only because somebody out there is a shithead. And she is first team all WNBA. So well done all around, Caitlin Clark. Gino Auriemma, Diana Taurasi, you were wrong, weren't you? You were completely wrong about her because she passed the eye test, as I said. Anybody who saw this woman play at Iowa knew she was going to go into the WNBA and light it up. Yeah, maybe it took her about the first quarter of the season to adjust. We will say that. The Fever started 1-8. Her numbers weren't so hot at the beginning of the year. Those of us that thought she was just going to walk into the WNBA and put up 35 a night like she was doing at Iowa, there was an adjustment period. So respect to the level of play in the WNBA that Caitlin Clark didn't just walk in and from day one post filthy numbers. But after the first quarter of the season, we started to see those box scores getting sexy. The point column, the assist column, leading the league in assists, as well as averaging 19 points a game, and of course, creating an entirely new element for the Indiana Fever with her range. We talked about it earlier this season on the show. Caitlin Clark's average three-pointer distance longer than Steph Curry's, longer than Dame Lillard's. She is putting up threes from further out there than anybody in the NBA, and the NBA is full of male long-range assassins. So Caitlin Clark, so impressive. Congratulations to her on a fantastic rookie season. Hopefully we can set aside some of the Mean Girls drama as we move into her second season next year. And I'll bring in Dave Ross now from Las Vegas, Nevada. And Dave, you've been watching this Caitlin Clark story unfold through the past couple of years at Iowa and her chases for an NCAA championship that came up a little bit short her junior and senior years. Straight into this WNBA just soap opera, really, is what it's been. As we're putting a bow on the season, the WNBA Finals, I think it's 2-1, New York over Minnesota right now, but probably for many of us, when Caitlin Clark's season ended, so did our WNBA season. What do you make of this first year, and what do you think we're going to see going into next year? Are we going to see more drama, or do you think it's going to abate a little bit, at least in terms of the off-the-court bullshit?
Yeah, I hope, Ricky, good morning to you, man. I hope that it subsides. I hope now that she's kind of earned her stripes, if she needed to prove anything to anybody that was already in the league before she got into it as a rookie this year. Look, I go back to when my family moved from New York to Virginia Beach when I was very young, 1980. And back then at Old Dominion, it was Ann Donovan and it was Nancy Lieberman. And I wasn't into women's basketball at all. And we went to Old Dominion to watch these two phenoms play. And of course, they go on to, win national championships. And you realize, wow, there's some really, really talented women playing at a really, really high level. And then I was there in Washington, D.C. years later, Shamika Holtzclaw coming out of Tennessee and with the Washington Mystics. And that was a big deal when she got there. And man, maybe she's really going to be the one to really get this league and get people fired up about it. And Shamika was a good player, but nothing like we've seen from Caitlin Clark. So I hope that if we're being honest, that everybody realizes that she really is that high tide that's raising all boats here. And for the league, it's nothing but positive. So if we can just get rid of the outside noise, Ricky, I can't wait to see what she does in year 2. And I hope other women in the league try to get on her level, because she's at a level right now that we just haven't seen in quite some time. It is a phenomenon, and they need to embrace the phenomenon instead of always trying to knock it down, Ricky. I just don't understand how counterproductive that could be from people inside the league.
Dave, as I've said, at some point, it's going to wear thin with the new fans. Now, Whoever's out there who's been following the WNBA closely before Caitlin Clark showed up, look, God bless them. I guess you've got those fans for life. The WNBA doesn't have to worry about those people. But that's not enough people to make the WNBA profitable, because as we know, Dave, they've been running at a loss. The NBA has subsidized this, and now you've got an opportunity 3 decades in. I've said it many times. She may have Larry Bird's game, but she is the Michael Jordan of the WNBA. Here is your generational player that you've been waiting for. Straight out of Central Casting. Everybody loves her. We found out about her organically in the best way by watching her do eye-popping things on the court. She comes into the league. She takes care of business. She couldn't have done a better job in terms of the way that she played, first team, all WNBA, in terms of the way that she comports herself. She always has the right things to say to the media. She's handled everything that she's dealt with so gracefully. She is a gift from God to the WNBA, and they've done everything that they can to fuck this up 12 ways to Sunday, Dave. So are they going to get the message? Are they going to get the message that they can't keep doing this? Because, listen, WNBA drama fatigue is a real thing. It claimed Ronnie T-shirts early. It hasn't claimed me yet. I'm still hanging in there. But at some point, eventually, people are going to be like, hey, I got along without the WNBA for a long time. I don't know that I need to go out of my way to follow it if all I'm going to be hearing is complaints and whining and bitching and moaning.
Yeah, it's something you and I talked about last week and before. I mean, I guess this conversation has been going on for quite some time now. Why race gets injected into everything with Caitlin Clark, and does she need to speak about? I don't understand. Like, look, that's again what Caitlin Clark wants to do. So be it. Then great. As you mentioned, organically is the key, right? Everything we've seen from her has been organic. I don't need fabricated. I don't need her stances on the election. I don't need her thoughts on what's going on overseas in Israel. And I don't need that stuff. Like, she wants to speak on it. Great. That's for more power to her. Go ahead. I'd like to watch her play basketball right now. That's what the phenomenon is. You mentioned it with Steph Curry. She's shooting from distance deeper than Steph Curry. You know, Steph Curry comes out of Davidson. Nobody thinks anything of him, right? As the big upset against Georgetown in the NCAA tournament many years ago. But then organically, you see this guy, Steph Curry. And I remember talking to pros that were like, this guy, come on, this isn't sustainable. And then you see it be sustainable, and it changes the way we look at basketball because of the range of Steph Curry. That could be Caitlin Clark. So why do we bring up everything else about Caitlin Clark or around Caitlin Clark that has nothing to do with Caitlin Clark? So let's just enjoy what we're watching, because it's fun to watch. But I'm with you, man. You keep beating my brow about all the other things and social justice and all these other causes that you want her to stand for. Let her be herself. She's still a young adult. And if she grows into that role, fine. But for today, I want to enjoy the basketball, man.
Yeah, and it's going to come down to the other players in this league. Can they chill out and appreciate that, hey, this is an outstanding player that's come into this league that is going to increase my visibility, that is going to hopefully increase my earning power, etc. Now, Dave, let's look at it from the standpoint of just how good she is. All right, we won't feed into all of that stuff anymore today. Let's talk about her on-court abilities, which is what you and I wish we could focus on more often. Is she potentially the greatest female basketball player ever? If her career goes down the way that it could, what are the odds that in 10 or 12 years, we look at her and we say, Caitlin Clark is the GOAT? Because, I mean, who's the GOAT right now, Dave? I mean, I don't know. I don't want to make you put your women's basketball hat on too tight today. But, I mean, Nancy Lieberman is the name that you heard the most as a casual fan for many years. Diana Taurasi, maybe.
Sure.
Is she Sabrina Ionescu. Producer Tim is not going to be happy until I drop a Sabrina Ionescu on the world.
A current reference.
She hit a big shot. Yeah, she hit a big shot the other night. But Caitlin could be the GOAT, not just in terms of marketability, but in terms of, I mean, Michael Jordan was the most marketable player by far early in his career, right? That goddamn shoe, Dave. Everybody wanted it. Air Jordan. We were all into Jordan. We were, ate up with Michael Jordan before he ever won his first championship.
Totally.
And he did go on to be the consensus GOAT. Does Caitlin Clark join him in that status?
She's got a chance. Certainly has a chance, as you mentioned, if you can project to what she's done her rookie year. But I think the key is the assists. Like, if we're really being honest about it, and you saw that early on when they got off to the terrible start to the season, she wasn't getting a lot of help out there. She's dropping dimes, and they're dropping them out of bounds, right? And those goes as turnovers for Caitlin Clark. It's the assist. And what I mean by that is normally great players that we look at as generational or, in this case, all-timers, GOATs. It's people that have the ball in their hand the majority of the time. Magic Johnson comes to mind, right? Talk about organic, like coming out of Michigan State and then going to the Lakers, and you see this 6'9" point guard that's doing everything. It's not the shooting of Magic that we remember. It's the Showtime Lakers. It's getting up and down the court. It's the amazing handles, right? Even Steph Curry, is he a point guard? Is he a shooting guard? Well, he can run the point too, right? I mean, he's got incredible handles that he can make his teammates better. And I think when you see that from Caitlin Clark at such a young age, year one of the league, realizing right away, I can shoot from wherever, right? I've got my range is unlimited. But what I'm really doing is I'm making my teammates better. And that's why the Fever got better, because everybody else started to know, oh, she's looking for me. She's going to find me. So I think it's the unique ability for all-timers. And Jordan did it to a degree, but he was more of an off-guard, so which really makes his greatness even that much more so. He always felt like he still needed a point guard with Mike. With Steph, with Magic, and certainly with Caitlin Clark, they're going to have the ball in their hands pretty much every time they come down the court, unless you run screens off of her to try to get the ball out of her hand when the ball is being inbounded, to keep it literally out of her hand. But if you don't do that, Ricky, she's going to command our attention because she always has the ball in her hand. And I think you can project that. And if she stays healthy, the league's not stopping her, Ricky. There's no chance the league's stopping her.
Well, Dave, you talk about Steph Curry. His coach, Steve Kerr, who's been pretty successful in Golden State, obviously, with that dynasty that they've had there. He weighed in very recently on the Michael Jordan, LeBron GOAT debate that is out there with some. Let's take a look at Steve Kerr's words about Michael Jordan versus LeBron James.
Kobe is the closest thing to Michael. Everybody's been compared to Michael. LeBron has been compared to Michael. I don't think LeBron is Michael at all. I think he's a very different player, different mentality, mindset. Kobe has the same mindset and mentality that MJ had. The assassin, I'm going to rip your throat out with my scoring, low post, dominant fadeaway jumper, footwork. I thought Kobe's footwork was one of the best parts of his game, probably the most underrated because everybody focused on his shooting and his athleticism, but his footwork got him open. And that's where he was so similar to Michael. He could just get any shot he wanted. And
I completely agree with Steve Kerr. Kobe is the closest thing that we've seen to Jordan. Kobe was maybe, in my opinion, 90% as good as Mike. Something like that. And they were almost sociopathic. They wanted to win so much. You referenced the Kobe, as you like to call them, GIFs, Dave. You referenced the Kobe one, soft, right? Uh-huh. Kobe was an animal in terms of how much he wanted to beat you. He wore it on his sleeve. Michael Jordan was pathologically competitive. Maybe that's the better word than sociopathic. But I got to tell you, those guys would cut your heart out to win.
Yes.
I've never felt that way about LeBron. LeBron is great. LeBron is, I would say, a top 5 player all time. I think that he's playing at a higher level at a very advanced age than anybody else ever has. He's a physical specimen. He has a well-rounded game. I mean, you can't say enough good things about LeBron James's on-court basketball ability. His IQ is obviously off the charts in terms of the game of basketball. But I don't think when it comes down to it, he has the dog in him that MJ and Kobe both had. And I agree with Steve Kerr. Kobe is the closest thing that we've seen to Jordan.
Yeah, I'll say this, Ricky. Steve Kerr and I are never probably going to vote for the same people. But when it comes to basketball, we see that exactly the same way. I couldn't agree. I've got really good friends in our industry that just chafe at this notion that LeBron is not a basketball killer like MJ and Kobe were. And I just look back at him and I go, where's your evidence that would say LeBron is the basketball? It just drives them crazy because they can't understand what Steve Kerr just laid out. Basketball assassin is the perfect phrase for Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. LeBron wants to be liked, man. He does. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just different. He wants to be liked out there in the court, right? So you can't kind of have it both ways. MJ did not care if you liked him or not. Kobe did not care.
Dave,
teammates
there's no way.
They didn't care. Right.
Can you imagine MJ like playing with his son? He would have said, look, you suck. Go get a master's degree. Okay, yes. I'm out here trying to win championships, and I'm not going to have your sorry ass out here making me look bad and decreasing my team's chances of success. So I'll go to the casino with you later. If you want to do a father-son activity, we'll go to the casino at some point. But we're not going to have it on the court in this league that I am the big dog who is running the yard.
Yeah. It's amazing to me that LeBron and by the way, LeBron James being a top 5 player of all time is not a diss. It's not a slap in the face. I don't understand how that became a negative. Right?
It's not a hell of a compliment.
It's an amazing accomplishment that he's had. And I don't think anybody would ever debate that. But to say that if you gave me a player, and I know Steve Kerr played with MJ, so people are, well, of course he played with him. He got punched in the face by MJ too at practice. So there are different ways to go about winning. And MJ did it, and some people don't like the way MJ did it and the way Kobe did it. But that's the differences, is they would literally, as you mentioned, crawl, scratch, fight. It doesn't matter. To win at all costs, some would say to a detriment, but at any cost, those guys are going to win. I don't know that LeBron's that same way, and I don't know that many people are wired that way. That's what made MJ and Kobe in that mentality, that Mamba mentality, a cut above what LeBron just doesn't possess, but that's not a negative. It's just a fact.
Absolutely correct. In my opinion, LeBron.
Yeah,
I've had people tell me, you're a hater. Listen, if I was a hater, I wouldn't say he was a top 5 player all time. Hate me like that by telling me I'm top 5 at something good. I'll welcome those haters, Dave. It's been a big year for Grimace with the New York Mets. They are still alive, although they're down 2-1 now in the National League Championship Series. But Take a look at this Grimace sandwich, Dave. Look at this motherfucker.
Oh my goodness. What are we doing, America? Oh my.
Yeah. Look at this.
Is this Subway?
Where is Mario's Meats and Deli? Yeah, Mario's Meats. Right there.
Okay.
New York Mets fans, but really anybody who wants to do something awesome. And there you go. It wasn't luck. It wasn't fate. It was Grimace. Okay, well, here we go. Here's where I'm going to pat myself on the back, Dave. Pull up this tweet. And I want people to know that this tweet was from 2018.
No way.
All right, Dave Ross, this was from 2018. I said, you asked me, McDonald's isn't utilizing Grimace properly anymore. When was the last time you had a key role? You have a stud on your team. You find a way to get him the goddamn ball. And 6 years later, the wisdom of that tweet has been validated by the New York Mets. I knew all along, Dave.
I have you to thank, Ricky, for this great Mets run of 2024. Not Grimace, not Hawk to a girl who threw out the first pitch as well. But if you do look at the numbers, since Grimace threw out that first pitch, it's been the best team in baseball. It's been an absolutely amazing run. I just hope it lasts. You mentioned it last night, 8-0. Dodgers beat the tar out of my boys last night. Not a happy guy last night's game 4, by the way, is tonight back there in Citi Field. Like, I'd pull out all the stops, Mets. I'd think about having Grimace back out there. Just like show up. He doesn't throw out the first pitch, but ride this wave. Kind of like Caitlin Clark. Ride it until the wheels fall off, Mets. So Ricky was on it 6 years ago. Let's not shy away from it. Let's stay in, Mets fans. And I'd eat that sub if it meant that the Mets would win tonight. I'm all in.
All right. Well, you're goddamn right about Grimace. And when his number got called, he was ready. Let's take a look real quick here at what I'm tweeting. What am I tweeting?
Okay. What do you got there?
We'll squeeze one in here. Here's one for you, Dave. Look at this. I like to post about the golden age of flight on Super 70 Sports over on X. And have a look at this. I said, this motherfucker was slicing up baller-ass cuts of meat right there in the aisle. There's some guy behind him that needs to go take a piss. But you're going to have to wait a while because this guy's just carving up a premium chunk of meat for this dude here. And I can't even get a bag of peanuts now, Dave. It's like if I could get a Diet Coke and 2 Biscoff cookies, I score that as a huge win now when I'm flying. I'm not in first class, Dave. I'm a man of the people. So, that's an amazing tweet, but I will say this. Did that not look like the new Bond? Was it Daniel Craig? Could that have been Bond's dad? Will you give me a little bit of that? Yeah. I can see it right there.
I can see him solving.
That could be Daniel Craig Sr. Yeah. Yeah.
Right there. I think somebody on that
he's
flight
serving it to is a fucking terrorist. Look at the guy he's about to serve it to. That guy's 100% an international terrorist.
He's a villain. There's no doubt.
Slicing meat. Yeah.
I think
absolutely. I want to see that Bond movie.
You just created
where's that one?
Movie.
God, not only did we create a new one, we created the best one, Dave. Last night, we saw Kamala Harris do something that we really haven't seen during this election season. She sat down with Brett Baer of Fox News for an interview with someone that we all knew going into the interview wasn't going to lob her softballs. Dana Bash of CNN was asking her multiple choice questions and doing everything but lighting a path for her to get through the interview as gently as possible. We knew that wouldn't be the case with Brett Baer on Fox News, and a lot of people, including myself, were surprised that the campaign elected to do a sit-down interview with Fox News. There were many of us that thought, well, what does this mean? Does this mean that their internal polling is really bad? Because we know that the strategy for quite some time seemed to be, pretty clearly, to minimize her exposure to the media. And it was working. her poll numbers shot up very quickly when she was anointed as the party's nominee and Joe Biden reluctantly stepped aside. And we now are seeing her making the rounds, doing more media than ever before, including Fox News. Let's take a look at a montage of some of the highlights. Last night, Kamala Harris sitting down with Fox News' own Brett Baier.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about? When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. You call Donald Trump, he's misguided. You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable, Brett. This is a democracy, and in a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it.
You're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency.
So there you have Kamala Harris and Brett Baier. The word of the day is apparently testy. Elon Musk tweeting out that a lot of mainstream media outlets using that particular word, testy, to describe this. And he said that it is the new sharp as a tack. Because remember there for a while where Joe Biden, it was always he's focused, he's sharp, all of this. But you can go through NPR, CNN, the AP, Hollywood Reporter. Can't see what the last one is there, but all of them, interestingly enough, electing to use the word testy for this interview, leading Elon Musk at least to believe that apparently is the talking point that went out, that's how we are to characterize this. Dave, Brett Baier catching some criticism from the left that he was combative and went after her, and I guess, God damn it, he was testy, they're saying. Well, what did you make of the interview, and was there, any particular part of this that you took away as being revealing?
Oh, all of it, Ricky. I loved it. I felt like it was watching maybe a playoff game, right? Because the Super Bowl is obviously the election, and when you have the head-to-head debates, those feel like wild card rounds. But this did feel like a big step and fish out of water for Kamala. And by the way, full kudos to Kamala for going on with a real journalist in Brett Baier. I'm old enough to remember, was it 2 months ago when Brett Baier had a tough interview with Donald Trump and some people were freaking out? Oh, we got boycott Fox News. That Brett Baier dude was asking tough questions. Yeah, like a journalist does, a real journalist. So he's holding Kamala's feet to the fire for policies over the last 3.5 years. And her default was Trump. And then her second kind of get out of jail free card was, come on, Brett. Like, come on. Like, we know what this is, right? Wink, wink. Like, come on, man. You're supposed to go easy on me. Like Joe said to Kamala back in 20, go easy on me, kid. That's what she wanted. And when Brett wouldn't do it, like CNN would have done, MSNBC would have done, ABC News, you name the outlet, she didn't know what to do. She didn't have answers to the question before the test was given to her. She's not used to that. They're not used to the pushback. So, by the way, had she done this a lot earlier, that's why J.D. Vance is so good. J.D. Vance had some rough moments early on in debating adversarial news organizations. And then he passed all the tests because he was in the arena enough to take all the heat. And that's why J.D. Vance is crushing it every time he goes on ABC, NBC. He's not afraid to go in anywhere because he's prepared. If you're prepared, you can answer all the tough questions. How they can't prepare her for some basic stuff that's happened in the 3.5 years that she's been the vice president is beyond me. And that's why, unless you are just in your own silo and somehow believe that was a shining moment for Kamala Harris, for everybody else, it was pretty obvious. And that's why 80% of the country thinks that this administration is taking us off the correct course.
And Brett holding her to account when she was on The View saying that she wouldn't have changed anything about the Biden administration. But now clearly it's not going to be a continuation. It's a layup. Exactly right.
It's a Mike Tomczak layup that Ronnie T-shirt swatted away.
Yeah, that's the perfect analogy, Dave.
Right.
So Kamala, look, there's a lot going on. Now, credit to her. I will say credit to her for going and doing it. If we're going to criticize her for not facing difficult questions, then it's not intellectually honest to not say, hey, credit to Kamala Harris for going into the lion's den, so to speak, and facing a real journalist. I don't think he asked anything that was out of bounds or unfair. No. They want to call it testy. What would you call the questioning that Donald Trump has received in virtually every interview that he's ever had for not just, for the past 8-9 years that we've seen him. And she was also late, by the way, for this. I will say that interview started 20 minutes late. Brett Baer had about half of the time that he thought that he had been allotted. So as far as the testiness goes, where he was kind of trying to get to the point with her, he was working with half the time that he thought he was going to have. So I think that may explain the perception that he was being a bit aggressive. Dave, I've got another clip here I want to play. This clip is about 3 years old. It's while Kamala was the sitting vice president, however, and it's her talking about the issue of voter ID, which is one that we hear about a lot. The Democrats do not want voter ID. They feel it's an unfair burden upon people. Republicans generally favor voter ID as a common sense solution to protect the integrity of elections. Let's go to Kamala. I believe she was on BET here roughly about 3 years ago discussing voter ID.
Is agreeing to voter ID one of those compromises that you'd support? I don't think that we should underestimate what that could mean. Because in some people's mind, that means, well, you're going to have to Xerox or photocopy your ID to send it in to prove you are who you are. Well, there are a whole lot of people, especially people who live in rural communities, who don't, there's no Kinko's, there's no Office Max near them. People have to understand that when we're talking about voter ID laws, be clear about who you have in mind and what would be required of them to prove who they are. Of course, people have to prove who they are, but not in a way that makes it almost impossible for them to prove who they are.
Impossible, almost impossible, Dave, to photocopy an ID. Who the fuck do they think their voters are? Who are these people that are living in the fucking 1700s, writing down shit with ostrich feathers that they dip in ink that the Democrats think are their base, apparently? It's 2024. We got driverless cars. We got chopsticks catching 19-story rockets that are coming back from space. And she's telling me that people can't photocopy an ID. You got to have an ID for everything in this country. Try telling anybody else that requires you to have an ID, any other governmental thing where you're supposed to have an ID, tell them that you can't photocopy it and see how sympathetic they're going to be.
It gets back to what we talked about yesterday. It's common sense, man. And they know it. Like, Kamala knows it. And I heard people saying, oh, she's just not that bright. No. She knows that she is tethered to terrible ideas, terrible policies. That, again, I'm glad you pointed out. She was the sitting vice president when she's making those comments, because she said to Brett, well, it was 5 years ago, Brett, like, oh, I changed my stance. Okay, you can change your mind, but you were the vice president of the United States when you made those comments. And it is insulting to people to say, you know what? We get it. You don't have the capabilities of proving who you are. You can't say in the same sentence, of course, you have to prove who you are, but we can't make it so difficult that they can't do it. So the alternative is you just show up without ID. Like, what world are we living in? But she knows this, Ricky. It's playing to the lowest common denominator that somehow the insinuation is that Republicans try to make it more difficult to vote than Democrats. So they are the party of compassion. These are these weird fallbacks in language that they try to do. Whereas Republicans just say, no. I don't care who you are. I just need to see an ID. I tried to get into Chicho's, a very popular bar in Virginia Beach when I was 16. Imagine me now. I'm in my 50s. Imagine what I look like at 16. I had my brother Steve's ID. I went to the bouncer, showed him the ID, and he goes, oh, Steve Ross. I know Steve Ross. You're not Steve Ross. And I said, yeah, I'm his brother. He goes, yeah, you're not getting in. That's the deal, baby. You got to be who you are, say who you are, and prove who you are. That's a right of voting, right? It is a privilege, and it shouldn't be that difficult to be able to access something that proves who you are before you get in the dice.
Everything.
Everything.
Dave, they couch everything. Excuse me. I've waited. It's been 40 episodes before I coughed, but it happened finally. So there you go.
No cough button.
I don't have a cough button. What am I going to do, man? I'm human. Dave, it seems like to me, man, that they couch everything in terms of like being nice. Like it's not nice. The transgender issue, it's kindness, right? You're being mean if you don't let the transgender athlete compete. That's more important than fairness to women. With the voter ID, you're, at least as they present it, well, you're being mean. What about these poor people in rural countries? It's like the governor of New York saying that black people don't know how to use a computer. Black children don't know how to use a computer. It's the most offensively patronizing type of stuff. It's legitimately insulting to say to someone that you're my constituency and I have so little faith in you. I don't believe that you have sense enough to know what a computer is, or I don't believe that you possess the industry to produce a basic photocopy of something. And they couch it as, well, you're being mean though if you disagree. You know, there's some poor 97-year-old grandma in rural Arkansas or whatever, and you're taking away her right to vote because, you know, she's living in the 19th century still somehow. Yes. So we're just going to pretend that voter fraud, you know, when they say voter fraud, it doesn't really, are you fucking kidding me? People will cheat at anything. As I've said before on this show, I have seen my own family members cheat at Monopoly. Okay?
Yes.
If people that I know and love will cheat at something that absolutely doesn't fucking matter, you better believe that there are people out there that are cheating when something as much as the fate of who controls the ideological car keys to the United States of America is at stake. It's so insulting to the intelligence of any thinking person to say that, well, vote, this isn't even an issue. This is a solution that's in search of a problem. Give me a fucking break. And we should all, on both sides, want fair elections with some accountability. I'm in favor of all paper ballots as well, Dave. Look, I got to go into the 2-minute drill here, Dave. Okay. So we're not even going to huddle.
Man,
the FBI just released an update to the 2022 crime statistics. Revision here. It turns out that crime is actually up 4.5% rather than down 2.1%. And let's flash back to the Donald Trump Kamala Harris debate where David Muir was fact-checking Donald Trump in real time on this very issue.
Crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris,
FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud.
Well, look at that. It turns out Donald Trump was right and David Muir was wrong. Now, do you think that they're going to fact check the fact check? Are we going to see ABC issue a statement that they incorrectly fact checked Donald Trump during the debate? You know, is that going to happen? You know, once it's out there, you know, it's out there, right? All those untold millions of people watching that debate, and David Muir casually brushes off what Donald Trump had to say. And now, 1/20th of the people who saw that are going to see this, most likely. So,
didn't you see?
There's the problem with fact checking in real time.
Didn't you see Pete Buttigieg's tweet? He just said crime is down.
Yeah.
There you go. Case closed. Yeah. Everybody go about your day.
Very recently, nothing to crime is down. Yeah.
Crime is down. Just puts it out there as a fact.
Are we going to retract that? And he knew, he had to know.
Of course
he's not like you or me. He has to know what the actual data is, I would think. Yeah, he's not a dumb guy.
Oh, of course he does.
And I would think if anybody was there, he would be privy to that. All right, enough serious politics. What else am I tweeting? Let's wash this down with some random Super 70s sports bullshit.
Let's see
so that we can go out on a high note. Okay, here's Cesar Romero, the 1960s Joker. Some consider him to be the greatest Joker of all time. I said the Joker found his mood improved considerably when he decided to stop trying to kill Batman and started chasing tasty waves in a cool buzz, as Jeff Spicoli once
Fast times,
said.
baby.
Look at that. He's got his head on his surfboard there. You know.
Do you think he really went surfing that day?
Trying to kill Batman is well, of course he did. That couldn't be staged, could it?
That's early staging.
Trying to kill Batman is stressful shit, dude. Can you imagine? It's frustrating. You can't do it. You got to ask yourself some hard questions. What am I doing with my life? I've been dedicating an unhealthy portion of my life to trying to kill this motherfucker. Yeah, nobody even thinks about how long it takes every morning to paint up your face for this. It's a commitment being a Batman
Everybody knows
villain.
I'm the Joker.
I think, you need a hobby.
Hey, OutKick fans on YouTube, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and make your way over to OutKick.com where you can watch the full episode.